Coming up next in the call, we've got Mr. Oscar Contreras, Vice President of FFL Manifest, and also we could say Saturday night sales slinger, because he sold 5 live transfers this past Saturday. I mean, and that was what's exciting to see you. And then now they've continued to roll in. But Oscar's been a highly successful 30K producer, leading a team. Great example as what hard work is, and working with his brother, love Brian, leading a team as well. But seeing you now adopt the live transfer lead edition has been fun to see. You take her away. Give us the tips.
Yeah, no problem, guys. So, you know, it all goes back to getting in a home. When you're beginning this business, it's all about setting appointments, you calling the client, trying to get in front of them as much as possible. So it all starts with being able to get in the home from the lead, developing that in-home comfort where you're comfortable, you know, showing them what it is to have a life insurance plan. Now, a lot of folks are completely, you know, uneducated when it comes to this. So when you present yourself as a go-to guy when it comes to the in-home, you know, you feel like you get better with every appointment. So, you know, don't take away the fact that this is, again, all about getting good in the home first, taking those skills and transferring them over to the phone. I just got lucky. I used to do a job where I was on phones all day selling used car parts. So I got used to being that go-to guy for people. So, you know, the first thing that I started doing when I started getting into these live transfers is I got as many states as I can get. The fastest states, some of them are like Texas, those bigger states. I like to get the states around all the states around the ocean. So there's where a lot of the population's based on. So get as many states, about at least 10 states to start slinging some leads on live transfers. And, you know, first thing I did was go on FFL Virtual Sales. That's a great website you put together. You know, I don't know why I waited so long to do the live transfers. I was having a bit of a hard time getting used to my in-homes, and I wasn't travel tripping enough. So when I started jumping into the live transfers, now I have the leads calling me. I said, hey, let me just get really good on the phone, find out how to really get good and really use that edge to sell as many policies as I can and help as many folks as I can. And so real quick, what I believe I do differently than what I used to do in home even is I go over, you know, as soon as you get connected, you know, you have that phone line that's ringing. And so as soon as a call comes in, you say something like, hey, you know, thank you for taking the time, for looking into this for your family, because I'm sure you know this is for them. And at least the fact that you're taking the time to look this over, it says a lot about you. So build up that, you know, encouragement to say, hey, you know, and if, you know, you find out right there, you know, tip is these people, they're on the phone. So either they called in or somebody called them. So you have to respect their time. I show them that by asking, do you have a good 10, 15 minutes to talk about this? And that kind of gets them to open up a little bit about their, you know, in that situation immediately. And really what I do is I introduce myself. I set the table by, you know, letting them know I'm their agent. So I'm like the realtor. You know, when you have a realtor, you say, hey, I want this type of house, this type of backyard with this and that. And so I let them know that I'm their go-to. I'm not just a captive agent selling one product. And believe it or not, the folks that are calling in or are on the transfer, they want insurance. And there's a reason they're on the phone for at least 5 minutes before they're transferred to you, to make sure that the amount that they're at least going to have 5-10 minutes to at least contact them. So, I immediately, once I let them know that, I get their verbal acknowledgement. Hey, I start building that trust. And I talk to them. I say, hey, so what are we doing here? Who are we trying to protect? What is it that you want? And they're human. And then, like you said, as long as you get them to open up a little bit, it always goes back to getting to the point quick too, because you don't want to waste their time sounding salesy, and one of the first things I do is I send them a quick text message. And I say, hey, did you get that text? And a lot of times if it's a modern phone, they're going to get that text, and I send them my state license and my business card. And that way we start that process of communication. And so that kind of starts that building the rapport, the discovery, where, if they accept me as their agent, I'm going to find out exactly what they're looking for. And by this time, I have found out if they're going to really buy or not. By this time they've told me, hey, I'm doing this for my family. I want to protect my kids, my wife, this and that. And so I make that the reason. And it should take you about a good 5 to 10 minutes to get to that point where you set aside a good, 15, 20 minutes to, you let them know how it's going to be, exactly how the in-home is. You say, hey, I'm going to submit this application. And one of the things I use, quick tip, is I use a website that's catered to FFL agents. It's insurancetoolkits.com. And it is a good underwriting tool that I bring out. So right around that discovery point, I bring out my website and I start to type in little things like the medication. And by this time, they've actually told me everything. And it's funny how if you just structure it correctly and you're always asking questions, if they're basically selling themselves the entire time and you're just providing that policy that will do that. And, as soon as you pop out that website, it saves you from having to go back and forth, finding out which policy you're going to get. And at first that can be a little bit overwhelming, but having those tools and even the underwriting genie on the chat, if you're unsure, by that time it gets to, how much insurance are we going to put in place? Before I even start quoting numbers or anything like that, I establish, hey, we're going to look at a few amounts. I'm going to show you a high amount and I'm going to show you a low amount. And we're going to try to get somewhere in between based on what you can qualify for. So, once that process starts of them sharing their bank information, their beneficiaries, all that information, they kind of have you as that point of authority. And, that's where you want to come across as that go-to agent that, other agents are going to come call them. It's funny because I was helping a lady out in Florida, and she said, I had asked her, have you been looking for insurance? And she said, yeah. And I had some family first life agent come over. And I was like, well, so she's already sat with people. It's time to capture that lead, that sale right there. And sure enough, I showed her that what I was going to get her, and close the sale. So right around that time is when it's a little bit difficult, because you're wondering, how do I close the lead? How do I get them to get to that purchasing point? And to me, it's about once I tell them the amounts, I don't wait. I don't ask them. I don't say, hey, are you ready to do this? I just go straight into it. What's your bank account? Which day? Which it's going to come out sometime these next few days. So just wait for it. And when you let them know what the application process is, you got to wait 2-3 days. And then once they draft that payment, you're covered. You're going to get that policy in the mail. Then you start to cement the policy by saying, hey, so I'm going to set a review call with you. We're going to look over the policy. If there's anything that you don't like, you don't agree with, we're going to go ahead and fix that at that point. That way there's no chargeback possibility, because now you've captured that. You're their agent. They know who you are. They have your phone number and they can always go to you. And the lead vendor we've been using is sending me a lot of younger folks. So people in their 30s and 40s and 50s. And so I'm having to do a lot less final expense. So that means I can do a CBO, a mutual of Omaha policy, and get them coverage instantly. So, the wonders of these leads, I don't know why it took so long. I wouldn't be able to get over 20, 30 a month, just staying in my own backyard, like you say. And so getting out and having the lead come to me is a game changer.
I love it, dude. What do you think you're going to do this month?
I'm aiming for 40, 50.
It's not double your income with just layering on one new lead source. So picking a couple of things out that I loved, that was your initial contact. You say, now, do you have 10 or 15 minutes to talk through this right now? That's a key line to find out if they're just kind of poking around trying to get a quick quote, or if they actually, they're not sitting in the car with the kids crying and just trying to get a quick quote. They're sitting in a place where they can actually follow through with the conversation. That was clutch. I love that. And then the fact that if they are on a modern phone, because most people, I mean, I think it's like 57% of web traffic now is all mobile versus 43% being desktop based, meaning people are on their phones a lot all day. So they're predominantly, you know, I don't have a house phone either. I haven't had a house phone for like 10 years. So to the thought process of most people are calling from a modern phone, I send them a picture of my license, of you, maybe even the credibility sheet to show the carriers you have to offer. That's such a smart tactic way to just kind of just increase credibility right on the front end. Any other small little micro things that you do because those were fantastic, Oscar?
Yeah, definitely. I let them know. A lot of times the folks that are calling us and trying to get insurance, they've most likely already looked and they've already shared their personal information out there. So, what it comes down to is really cementing what you're doing. And I ask them right before I get off the call, I say, hey, is what we're doing, does it make sense? Are we, does this, even the premium, does that make sense? Everything. And it goes through, that process of having them think about it, having a little bit of buyer's remorse. And one of the first things I do to kind of test out the waters as if they're going to keep the policy or not, is I start sending them emails. And if you're an agent doing this business, you should be sending up follow-up emails or even text messages, letting them know if they got approved, because that really cements the fact that they did just speak with this random person over the phone. They're paying $100 and something a month. They've got to have you at their beck and call, sort of. So sending them those reminders, it keeps them in the loop of their policy. And one of the things I tell them real quick, another tip is in the intro, I tell them right away, hey, my goal here is to protect your family first and foremost. If I don't feel like I did my job. But then what I want most of all is that if once I protected your family, you like me good enough, I did a good enough job for you, that you can recommend me to your family and friends. So now they know that you're trying to set a good example and trying to do a good job so that they can recommend you, because they won't recommend you if they don't like you. And so this is my first week. So hopefully this next week I start getting some referrals. I've already had some. So that's kind of how I'm doing it right now.
That's awesome, Oscar. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining us today. Any one final tip or mindset to just, because there's a lot of new agents out there, and I know you sold for over a year in the field. You've done travel trips, you've done local, you've done it all. And now to see your quick success now, I mean, you're the #1 producer in our agency this month of almost 400 agents this week. #1 producer doing $19,000 in a week. And I mean, how many of those apps were live transfers?
I would say 14, and the other 4 were just follow-ups.
14 apps led to $19,000 of income in a week at Family First Life by Mr. Oscar Contreras, taking advantage of the new live transfer programs we offer here. You can check out lead vendors on the website. So, Oscar, thank you for jumping on. Appreciate you, buddy. And looking forward to continue to rank #1 on the leaderboard and continue to lead your team by example. Drop a OC in the comments below to show Oscar Contreras some love. We appreciate you, brother. You have a great day. All right.